Sir, shall we begin?
Ma'am, whenever.
Yeah. Shall we begin, sir?
Ma'am, I am ready. Whenever you will ask me, I will start.
There are 20 participants. If it's okay, we will begin.
Still 2-3 minutes are there. We can wait. So our time is from
3:30 to 4.
Your time, you know.
Your time is 3:30 to
3
3
to 4.
to 4. Hmm.
Yeah, it's
So
3 to
if you, when it's ready, just tell me. I will give a formal introduction and then you can begin.
Yes. We will start at, no, right now it's 2:58. We will start at 3:05.
Okay. I think some more are joining.
Yeah.
At times, participants can show yourself on your video. We would like to see at least your face. Thank you. Sir, let me begin with your introduction so that it will be exactly timed, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Distinguished speaker, dear guests, and my dear participants, it's my pleasure to welcome you all once again to this last session of this 3-day virtual international conference that is for the valedictory address. Thank you for joining us to this last session too. I take immense pleasure in introducing Dr. Jai Singh, Assistant Professor, Department of Indian and World Literatures, the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. His areas of specialization include contemporary theory, post-colonialism, Indian writing in English, diaspora, feminism, culture studies, and specifically digital humanities. Sir has presented in several countries outside India. He has visited Finland, Hungary, Bangladesh, including Bhutan. And he has several international assignments in his hand as a member to the Board of Studies and has published several books and papers. It is all accepted in Scopus indexed journals and resource person for many conferences, and he has been organizing several conferences during this COVID-19 pandemic times, including myself. I have attended several of the conferences that has been continually organized by him like a marathon race. He is never tired. He is always energetic. It is amazing, and I admire that. It's my honor to have you in this platform, sir. And today, Dr. Jai Singh will be delivering his valedictory address on the topic, Exploring Linkages Across Time and Space, a study of South Asian literature and culture. This topic I consider would be more appropriate to end all the deliberations that we have had during these 3 days. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm highly thankful to Srapse College, Jaunpura College, Madam Chitra, and President of the Srapse College, Mr. Sharing Wangdi, for organizing such a wonderful conference and giving me a chance to share my views on South Asian literature and culture across time and space, where I will explore the linkages in past, in present, and what we can do in future as well. When we look at the map of world civilizations, the first significant civilizations emerged in Asian countries, especially South Asian region. Later on, it shifted to the focus, shifted to European countries. Now, if you see the center of the world civilizations, whether we accept it under emotional pressure or not, that's another thing. But that is Euro-American center. But that was not the case up to, you can say, 10th century, 11th century. But after that, things started changing. And perhaps the worst situation in this region is due to the linkages that we lost. The linkages that were present here and made this region powerful were lost. On the other hand, in the European and American world, America of course came much later, in the European world, those linkages strengthened and finally led them to becoming the world power. So when we talk about the South Asian studies, it has its roots in European academic spaces, and it's not a new thing. there was a branch of specialized studies which was known as Orientalism. And to a large extent, Orientalism dealt with the Asian civilizations, and this term or this institution, the institutionalization of the study of Asian civilizations, it took place in European academia a long time back as a field of learned study. It came into being, I'm talking about Orientalism, came into being with the decision of the Church Council of Vienna in 1312 to establish a series of chairs in Arabic, Greek, Hebrew, Syriac at Paris, Oxford, Bologna, Avignon, Salamanca, as it is pointed out by Edward Said in his very radical book Orientalism in 1978. However, South Asian studies is in a little more organized manner, can also proudly count more than 200 years of history. But for a long time, the discipline has been faced with a series of problems. The dominating trend was classical Indology. Indology is a branch of Orientalism that deals with Indian subcontinent. Indological scholars in the West, together with many Indian colleagues, try to understand India in particular and entire South Asia in general, as it was 1,000 years ago or even earlier. In such circumstances, the only dialogue that was possible was about its historical and philological interpretation. That is what most of the Orientalists of that time did. However, in the last 50 years, much has changed. There is still a place for classical Indology, but only as part of South Asian studies. And the majority of classical Indologists are no longer considered more, that much important. In the first half of 20th century, it was still common to explain social relations in modern South Asia with theoretical quotations from the works such as Manva Dharma Shastra. Now, of course, such an attempt would no longer pass as scholarship, but classical Indology still occupies a place in South Asian studies. However, it seems that at many universities, classical and modern studies are completely separate and often consider each other as rivals. This is a little bit problematic, but it can be understood very easily because of the continuous competition between these two fields, the classical Orientalism and the modern Orientalism. But we cannot neglect the classical Orientalism, which is based on history, because if history cannot or should not define our understanding of modern South Asia, it can surely deepen our. When we look at the South Asian linkages and we do the comparative study of cultures of India and other Asian countries, it testifies religion between these countries through the ages. This undoubtedly was an outcome of the trade and the religio-cultural interaction between India and rest of Asian countries in past. And when we look at the linkages, we have, I am going to explore three linkages: language, Buddhism as a religion, and economic relationships in this entire region. First, I will discuss Buddhism. Buddhism emerged and later on flourished in East Asian countries, India, China, Japan, and then it flourished. It emerged and later on flourished in Asian countries such as China and Japan through the Silk Route and Sea Route in ancient period. Archaeological and textual evidence testify Buddhism entered in Central Asia in the 2nd century BCE. Central Asia seems to have played a vital role in spreading Indic religions, especially Buddhism, in East Asian countries. Buddhist monks propagated Buddhism through Buddhist philosophy, literature, art, symbols, and rituals. We can find Buddhist literature, Buddhist art, Buddhist symbols, and rituals in entire South Asia and even East Asia. The study of the emergence and development of Buddhism in Central and East Asian countries confirms ancient trade between India and these countries, especially China, along the famous Trans-Eurasian route. Silk Route was a prime factor which facilitated the establishment of cultural association between these countries. The foundation of cultural linkages was laid down in the 1st century CE when two Buddhist monks, Dharmaraksha and Kashyapa Matanga, arrived in China in 65 CE to propagate Buddhism. This is an evidence of the first official association between India and China through the Silk Route. The Buddhist missionaries visited China from time to time for the spread of Buddhism. The Chinese pilgrims also visited India to see holy Buddhist sites and to study Buddhist doctrine. Fa Hin, Hyung Seng, Chi Ming brought back Buddhist texts with them. These Buddhist texts were translated into Chinese and further facilitated the knowledge of the Buddhist practicing Chinese among the Chinese people. These translations transmitted the importance of Buddhist worship to Chinese society. The Buddhist missionaries and the Chinese pilgrims have played a vital role for not only introducing Buddhist doctrine but also for spreading different cultural aspects of ancient Indian society, which further reinforced the cultural linkages between these two countries. The commercial contacts between India and China were endorsed to establish close cultural association between them. The contacts between India and Korea were established in the 4th century when the first Indian monk came to Korea from former Qin of China in 374 CE. Buddhism was introduced to Japan in the early 6th century CE when the Piche kingdom of Korea had sent an envoy to the Japanese court with the Buddha's image and Buddhist texts to establish friendship between these two countries. It seems that Buddhism entered these East Asian countries via the Central Asian route. Buddhist doctrine, along with Buddhist texts, philosophy, art, architecture, and iconography, was rapidly spreading in East Asian countries. Buddhist art and East Asian countries has originally preserved Buddhist cultural notions. The study of Buddhist literature, iconography, and art of East Asian countries facilitates to comprehend our knowledge of the past to reveal the cultural association between India and these countries. The comparative study of the styles, iconographic, and architectural features of East Asian and Indian art throws light to reveal the cultural association among these countries, which also facilitates to reconstruct the cultural past of the ancient Indian society. The Buddhist art of the region helps us to understand the genesis and development of iconography of Buddhist deities. It further facilitates to comprehend the influence of Indian style on Buddhist imagery of East Asian countries. So, as I told you, Buddhism is one religion that combines, that joins the entire South Asia and Southeast Asia. Just like Christianity unites the Europe, to a large extent, Buddhism unites this entire region on religious lines. Now I'm going to discuss one language that traveled to many parts of this region. The regular movement of people, idea and commodities between India and rest of Asia dates from long before the early modern period. Nearly 2 millennia ago, Sanskrit literature and Buddhist literature and the traditions and cultural artifacts were transmitted across Asia. People moved from other Asian countries to India to other Asian countries. Sometimes they were traders, sometimes they were rulers, sometimes they were artists, sometimes they were religious preachers, but the movement was quite visible and frequent. When we talk about the spread of Sanskrit outside India, we find it, it was present in one way or other way in almost entire South Asia. For more than a millennia, Sheldon Pollock in his public poetry in Sanskrit records, for more than a millennium and over an expanse of space that stretched from the environs of Kabul to Fremban on the plains of central Java, Sanskrit poets covered the world with poetry. If one were to live in the year 1000, one would have seen public poems in Sanskrit engraved everywhere on the sides of village tanks or step wells or modest shrines, on the ubiquitous copper plate grants, recording royal guilds on vast stone pillars or walls looming up from gigantic architectural wonders on Mount Abu in Gujarat to Angkor in Cambodia. Sanskrit poets, not necessarily Indian poets, but poets who wrote in Sanskrit, created a world like no other, a world thoroughly saturated with poetry. Sanskrit's diffusion was effected, it seems, by a small number of traditional intellectuals, often following in the train of scattered groups of traders and adventurers and carrying with them, besides, the full panoply of Sanskrit cultural monuments such as grammars, lexicons, epics, and courtly poems. The expense of Sanskrit was even up to Korea. A good deal of names in Korea still belongs to Sanskrit origin, all of which make themselves felt in the poetic inscriptions themselves, the desperate and decidedly uncanonized texts of a wide variety of competing religious orders. There is a difference between, now I'm going to discuss after Sanskrit, the next linkage is the economic relationship between Asian countries. There was a lot of trade and commerce between India, China, up to Russia, the Asian part of Russia, Iran, Iraq, Korea, Mongolia. Means at this time, if we do not look into the archive, it's impossible to believe that people were moving across these countries so frequently and in such large numbers. Means if you ask a common person from India, Bhutan, Nepal, they will not believe that so many people were moving. There is, now when we talk about uh, commerce, economic relationship between these Asian countries, so Indian merchants, so there were two type of merchants at that time who were doing trade across these countries. One were the Indian merchants and another one the Karma traders. While both type of merchants mediated the exchange of goods between these regions, the entire South Asian region, The Indian merchants did not limit their commercial activities to the import-export trade. Rather than exchanging their Indian commodities for other goods in demand in Indian markets and then returning home with the next karma, the Indian merchants remained in distant locations for extended period of time, usually several years. They deliberately engaged their capital in a variety of interest-oriented money lending ventures throughout throughout this region. These merchants were well known as a source of various type of short-term, short-term high-interest loans and for financing elaborate systems of urban and rural credit. Indian merchants' trade and money lending activities place them in a unique socio-economic position in their host societies. Thus, with only a few notable exceptions, with a few notable exceptions, earned them the outright protection of the local ruling elites. So they have a lot of respect uh, in this entire region. Just like East India Company moved from Europe to India for the economic regions, same way Indian traders were moving across Asian countries. But there was a difference. They never tried to colonize. They respected the local rulers, and local rulers uh, gave them a lot of respect, and they always enjoyed certain privileges. So they had very close relationship with the local ruling elite, despite the fact that the vast majority of these merchants consisted of Hindu merchants living in Muslim states during 16th, 17th, 18th centuries. Those who have looked to European influences for the roots of Asian capitalism will find it interesting that long before European merchants working for the Dutch and the English East India Company arrived in the Indian Ocean, there were Indian family firms established throughout North India operating heavily capitalized commercial institutions that maintained diverse portfolios of trade and money lending investment. Again, rather than triggering the decline of such indigenous commercial institutions, it is during the very period of European expansion in the Indian Ocean commercial arena that the Indian family firms began to diversify their portfolios geographically by sending agents to distant markets in port cities, villages, and major or minor urban centers as far away as Moscow and St. Petersburg. The emergence of Indian merchants in Turan during the very period presumed to mark Turan's protected period of economic decline and the prosperity of these merchants to the end of the of the 19th century. It clearly demonstrates that India and Turan shared close economic relations throughout this period. Through their exportation of Indian investment capital to Turanian agriculture and industrial producers, Indian family firms and their agents use the Indian economy as an engine for agricultural and village industry production throughout early modern urban and rural Turan. India and Turan and India and Iran, they were not, however, the only commercialist mediating Indo-Turanian transactional trade routes. Numerous groups of pastoral nomads and Indian and Bukharan Karma traders were also engaged in the annual transportation of tens of thousands of horses and other commodities across the Afghan frontier to India, and the vast amounts of Indian commodities, especially cotton, textile, and slaves. Slaves were one of the major trade community in those days to the market of Turan. From the middle of the 16th century to the end of the 19th century, the lively Karma trade, which had previously defined much of India's commercial relationship with its neighbors to the north and west, were augmented by the commercial activities of thousands of Indian merchants in the distant markets of Afghanistan, Turan, Iran, Russia, Astrakhan, and so many Asian countries. Now there is one more country which requires a special mention when we talk about the relationship between India and South Asian countries. That is Mongolia. Mongolia and India have ancient ties, and some annals record that they go back 10,000 years. According to some scholars, Indians from Kangada kingdom of Himalayan foothills migrated to the present territory of Mongolia. Mangal Dev, the son of the king, headed the expedition. The majority of the Indians, however, were said to have gone back to India after staying for over 2000 years. So people from Kangada went to Mongolia. They lived there for 2000 years, then came back. It looks surprising that after 2000 years somebody goes back. The hereditary ladder of their decadence is the head of the Koch dynasty that still lives in Indian state of Himachal Pradesh. The family tree comprises of 490 generations going back to 4300 BCE. And then we have rulers from who came from that side, ruled over Indian peninsula, stayed here for a long time. And they became part and parcel of the life in Indian subcontinent. Historical traditions about the Kushanas. So Kushanas are one of the rulers who came from Mongolia. Historical traditions about the Kushanas have been preserved in Mongolia for many centuries. Long after the fall of the Kushana Empire, the Mongolian chronicle of the second half of the 13th century, that is Kantake, mentions Kushana or Mongol, the Mongol power of Kushana. After the Kushanas, the Hunas came to Central Asia, where they divided into two groups. One came to India, the other went to Europe. Toraman and his son Mirikula ruled India for almost a century. After their defeat, they remained in Kashmir and we mixed with the locals. If we read Kalhan's Raj Tarangini, which was written in 1148 CE, it gives the name of Huna kings and portrays their way of life. Later on, Genghis Khan's successors came to India. That is, Babur's family. And even the Mughal Empire traced its lineage back to him. These civilizational links have contributed immensely to the cultures of these two nations. Translations of Indian literature, including theory, practice, and poetry, developed early in the Toba era of Mongolia. Besides the teachings of Buddha, non-Buddhist culture and literature were also disseminated and are major influences even today. The Mongols composed their own version of the Medicine Sutra and several other treatises. Mongolia has a vast archive of documents relating to ancient India. The rich literary tradition of Indian origin that found a home in Mongolia for many centuries is a repository of many thousands of golden sources. The famous Indian collection of fables, Panchtantra, was translated centuries ago and reached Mongolia in various versions. The great epic Ramayana of Valmiki, found in Mongolia, has more than 5 versions. The sages of King Bhoj and Krishna, the trilogy of tales about King Vikramaditya, and Dandin's Tale of 10 Princes, and his Kavyadrisha, a treatise of Sanskrit, prosody, and Kalidasa's Meghdutta have been translated many times, and there are commentaries written on them by several Mongolian scholars. So it clearly shows that there were very close ties between India and other Asian countries. Now, when we come to the contemporary developments in South Asian region, especially in the field of literature, a distinct South Asian literary identity drawn from interconnecting languages, cultures, food, music, oral heritage is emerging in modern fiction and in social media. It cuts across the boundaries of religion and ideology and stretches the limits of static political maps. This interlinked pattern in the region makes it different from the Western pedagogical model, which inscribes hierarchies between the oral and the scripted. The epical important to understand the ancient lineage and the shared identities in Asia's past find reflection in contemporary geographies and are constituted differently than in other categorizations. When we talk about modern literature from South Asian region, one name stands quite prominent, and that is Salman Rushdie. Undoubtedly, before him, the second Nobel Prize of English Literature came to this continent only when Rabindranath Tagore got Nobel Prize. But Rabindranath Tagore, though he was a Nobel laureate and a great poet, could not bring out radical changes in the West's understanding of the East. This work was accomplished by Salman Rushdie. His Midnight Children was a watershed which impacted how the world viewed South Asian writings. The author's magical prose also transformed the manner in which this writing examined itself. And after that, we see a large number of writers, modern writers, emerging from this entire region. It's almost impossible to discuss all the writers from the entire region, but I will just name a few. Of course, Indian literature is discussed in detail in this entire conference, so I'm not going to discuss that. So, there is a neighboring country, Nepal. When we look at the literature in Nepal, we find a comparable view of plurality in the literature there. Like all other South Asian literatures, Nepal too has its enduring epic uh, that is transmitted through versions of orality and now popularized as Munna Madan by Lakshmi Prasad Devkota. And when we in the 18th century, and when we talk about the modern Nepali literature, the modern Nepali literature has grown into a vibrant corpus ready to contend with issues of politics, family, history, and Nepal's relationship with the world. Then, of course, we have literature from Bhutan. Bhutan has also contributed its share to the Buddhist literature and even to the modern traditions of literature. And the contemporary Buddhist writers, they are doing wonderful job. Then we have Sri Lanka, and from Sri Lanka there are some very prominent names like Michael Ondetji, Ramesh Gunsekhara, and others. Now I will finish my talk with a small observation why we need a conference like this that discusses South Asian literature. As I discussed in the beginning, this region was a home to most powerful civilizations of the world, because of the close ties, economic relationships, religious relationships, cultural relationships, and literary relationships. And if we revive the same thing, that will again benefit this entire region. Unfortunately, due to some kind of westernized notion of nationalism, we do not discuss the literature from other regions in our academic spaces. Of course, I know in Bhutan they do study Indian literature, but in India we don't study Bhutanese literature. We don't study Bangladeshi literature. We don't study Chinese literature, Japanese literature, and it's um, in the literature departments. Other than the departments related to their languages, like in our university we have Department of Chinese language and literature. There they may be discussing Chinese literature or just Chinese language, that I don't know. But we are not translating literatures from each other. We are not reading them. We are not trying to understand each other in a holistic manner. If this kind of conferences help us understand each other in a holistic manner, it will start a new era of cultural, social, economic, and political emergence in this entire region. So with these words, I say thanks to Professor Chitraji, her college, institution, Royal University of Bhutan, and all the people who participated in this conference in one way or other way and made it successful, and all the team members who worked day and night to make it successful. So thank you.
Ma'am, you have to unmute.
Thank you, Professor Jai Singh, for this enlightening address. You have taken us through the Silk Route to explore the historical and geographical realities of South Asian studies. And you have also highlighted the essential purpose of this conference and the concept upon which it has been built. Thank you so much for summarizing the essence of this three-day intellectual proceedings. Now, for a few minutes, let me invite the participants' views. If any participant is willing to express your views about this conference, I will give you 5 minutes to hear from you. If anybody is willing, you are most welcome. Yes, Professor Jagdish Batra, you're most welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for joining again.
Thank you. First of all, let me say thanks to Dr. Jai Singh for the wonderful recapitulation of various papers presented here. And I just wish to add to what he said regarding the study of literatures of different countries in Southeast Asia here, South Asia rather, in Indian universities. Dr. Jai Singh has been rather modest. It is true that as part of the course curriculum, there's not much, here apart from Indian literature. We do find, however, different writers under categories like diasporic writing, or it could be even writing of some of the countries. There are different themes. Of course, multicultural, for example, is one theme under which we might be studying this, and post-colonial definitely involves writings from different countries. So is postmodern. So taken from that angle, probably we are doing a bit. And like there are some very popular writers also. And what's more, many of the professors here, including Dr. Jai Singh, I believe, are guiding students for their PhD thesis. And mostly there are, novelists from other countries. Like I should say, Khalid Hosseini, for example, Afghanistan. Even Hussain from Bangladesh, they are very popular. Monica Ali from Bangladesh. So they are some of the popular writers. Even Nepalese writer Manjushri Thapa, her work, all of us in our own lives, in which she pays tribute to issues concerning women. So they are, of course, quite popular here. And we could go further on to Japan, for example, Kazuo Ishiguro, and even Chinese novelist Madeline Themes. So they are some of the writers whose works are taken up by different guides. Sri Lanka's Shyam Selvadurai, I'm reminded of. Yes, he's also very popular with Indian researchers here. So I'm sure Pakistani writers, also a number of them actually, those who talked of, I think there's one, I just can't recall the name, but then Mohsen Hamid is one. And there are women writers also who have spoken of in autobiographical vein of the plight of women. And I'm just not able to recall their names. Moni Mohsen probably is one. Yes. So this is what I wanted to say. Thank you very much. It has been a rewarding conference for me as well as for all other participants. I had a long desire, to visit Bhutan and to, see the educational setup there. It's not been possible physically, but thank you, Dr. Chitra and Dr. Jai Singh. At least virtually, I'm able to register my presence there and savor your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. We are highly honored by your presence. I have to mention the adaptability and the flexibility with which you have joined as and when we wanted you, and as and when you had time on all these 3 days from the beginning till the end. It's really motivating and rewarding for our experience, for the work that we have put in. Thank you so much for being with us throughout. Anybody else would like to join?
Can I say something, Doctor?
Yeah, sure, Munna. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, all. I am a ME student at the Yonfula Centenary College, and I just would like to thank everybody for this making this program successful. Firstly, I'd like to thank all the participants for participating in this program. I, as a student of this college, I feel that I should represent the other members, I mean my friends, to thank you all for participating in this program. And I'd also like to thank all the host and co-host, Dr. Chitra, Dr. Rajshri, Dr. Sain, and even Dr. Jai Singh sir. And Dr. Jai Singh sir, I think I have seen you for so many times now. I feel quite close to you. And I've also presented my paper on the first day, and my chairperson was Dr. M. Nagalakshmi. So I'd like to send my special thanks to Madam Nagalakshmi. And I'd also like to thank all the chairpersons for, participating, coordinating with our host to make this program successful. And at the end of this 3-day program, I feel that I am really a South Asian, truly a South Asian. Though Bhutan has a very young literary culture, but what I felt after these programs that I feel that Bhutan has also set its foot on the arena of South Asian literature. So in the future too, I'd like to participate, though it was Dr. Chitra who forced us to join, but thank you, Doctor, for doing that. Now I would like to join such more programs to celebrate such programs. So thank you once again all.
Thank you, Munna Gurum, for representing the college and the students of semester 1. Thank you. I would like to have one more participant, if you wish to join. We have space for one more.
You can share your views.
Hello, good evening.
Yes. Yes, ma'am, Jayanti.
Yes, I'm Jayanti. from Chennai. It was really interesting and an innovative idea. We were able to enroll ourselves into this virtual learning process. As such, it happened. Though it was a paper presentation and it was something new, initial stages as how the child finds it difficult to work. Such was the case with us as to how this net might help us, how the technological development might really support us. But anyhow, madam, you had been behind us when I was not able to enter into the link, every second of it, looking into the WhatsApp, mail, and all these things. So it's really a great wonder that you were able to do from the nook and corner of it. We were all able to participate. So hats off to you and to sir, who was very much considerate enough. Around 10:30, there was a problem when I put it to transfer the amount. It was stuck. I was really shocked when people at home were trying to find out why I did such sort of a thing in this transaction. So you have all helped me out. Thanks, madam. Thanks a lot. And anything such continues, please do inform us. We are very happy to join. Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. I think with this, I would like to move on to deliver a formal vote of thanks to conclude this program. Let me begin right away. Honorable President of Sharapse College and EFLU Centenary College, distinguished co-organizer Professor Jai Singh, the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad, respected Dean Mr. Sering of YCC, dear colleagues, Dr. Sayan Day and Dr. Rajeshri, the faculty, and Mr. Yugen Sering, ADM and ICT, and Singh Wangmo, ADM assistant, on behalf of this conference team, I am privileged to propose this vote of thanks to all the dignitary speakers and scholarly participants. I sincerely thank each member of the team for shouldering varied responsibilities through the preparatory phase until this moment. I salute the team members for their professional commitment and dedication, first of all. And then during this journey, I was constantly supported by the hopeful words of our Honorable President. Thank you, sir. And moreover, Dr. Jai Singh was so kind and willing enough to guide and spare his time to discuss every aspect, which helped us to come up with a meticulous planning. It's significant also to point out that the conference received very good response with nearly 80 plus participants, mainly from India. And even from India, I should make a special mention, it's from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. We had an elderly participant who was an advocate. He is an advocate. He is very much present here, Mr. Sumer Kajuria, who participated from Jammu and Kashmir. And in this last session, he presented his paper. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, we had the representation from India. And from Bhutan, we had the representation from the YCC students of past and present, and Bangladesh. Also, with an array of speakers across 6 countries, starting from Bhutan, India, Bangladesh, UK, US, and Italy, during this literary deliberation on multiple dimensions of South Asian literature. To accommodate every registered participant, we had in total 21 sessions chaired by 21 eminent academicians during these 3 days. Let me not forget to express our immense thankfulness to Dr. Jai Singh at this juncture for running the parallel sessions as host, along with his committed group of research scholars, with special mention to Muskan Kapoor. It was amazing, sir, to see you in all the screens, and in most of the sessions, your physical presence in the virtual platform from morning till evening really motivated us. In almost all the sessions, we have had not less than 30 participants attending the paper presentation. Forget about the main session. We had 60 to 70 participants always in the main session. And even in the parallel paper presentation session, it was not less than 30 participants attending the presentation till 6 p.m. and 6:30 p.m., which is a sure indicator of our success. Our conference team is indebted to you all, and we express our heartfelt congratulations and best wishes to all the presenters. And here the presenters also were ranging from professors. Professor Jagdish Batra is very much here. I would like to thank him express our heartfelt gratitude and thanks to him. It ranged from professor. He had been presenting, chairing the session and expressing his views in this valedictory session. It was really amazing and admirable. And we had associate professors and heads of the department presenting papers, assistant professors from various universities, and research scholars, budding research scholars, and starting from bachelor's degree, MA students from Delhi University colleges, and also PhD research scholars from different universities and colleges across India. And our gratitude and heartfelt thanks to session chairs and to the students of YCC. Our warm regards to one and all for the success of this 3-day virtual international conference. I hope I have covered everyone in this vote of thanks. But before I officially end this program, I have 2 important announcements to make. Firstly, regarding conference certificates, I will float the message in WhatsApp group as well as in the conference mail because we need some time to consolidate and send the individual certificates. Within 7 to 10 days, it will be sent. That's the assurance I give you. Kindly wait for the certificate and give us some time to make it a very beautiful certificate in a very proper manner so that it would be a rewarding experience for you. Secondly, the guidelines for final paper, for the submission of your final paper, will also be floated on or before September 15th. The guidelines for paper submission will be floated with timeline for submission until October 4, 2020. I hope these 2 announcements are the much awaited announcements at this time, and I have made it clear, and I will also float this message in WhatsApp and conference mail. If you could kindly wait for a few more days, this process will be completed, and then we will invite papers, and I will let you know about the publication of this paper, but it will again take time. Please don't pressurize us. With these announcements, let me announce that the conference is officially drawn to an end, but our academic engagements will continue. Either you would be visiting Bhutan in the new normal, or we would be visiting your institution. So our academic engagements will continue, and we will be in constant touch. Thank you all. Tashi Delek.